What's going on, guys? How's everybody doing? Just posted the link. Come on in. Why is that thing still playing? I thought I shut it up. Yeah, there's Dave. Hey, what's going on, brother?
What's up?
Not much, man. Just trying to get a hold of Dave, see what he's up to. He seems to be unresponsive. I mean, he's usually been pretty busy lately with moving things around, possibly changing locations out there in California. So I don't know what he's doing. I don't have anything really prepared, but I figured I'd let you guys in. Come on in, we can talk about anything and see if he shows up. I'll keep trying to reach out to him.
Yeah, people in the chat join the party.
Yeah, come on in. Just keep it clean. I'll send the link out there again. I don't know anything you guys want to talk about until.
It's June here.
Oh, geez, man. How's that time traveling stuff going on?
It's good. It's 43 degrees Fahrenheit right now, so it's warming up slowly.
You guys are. How's your latitude compared to North America?
That's a good question. I want to say we're farther north than you are, but I'm not.
You probably are.
Yeah, I was going to say I'm almost positive we're farther north, but I'm not an expert on latitude and longitude.
I'll actually pull up Google Earth right now and kind of check it out because I'm curious. I have a feeling you guys are quite a ways up there. But,
yeah, I mean, we're next door to Russia, so. But Russia's huge too, right? So.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's like, what part? Like, I didn't realize, that England is actually up there with parts of Canada, so they're even further up north.
Oh, yeah, they're up there too. I'm actually waiting because I was talking to, I can't even pronounce the name of the chat, the Sean Gerber in the chat, waiting for a link or a YouTube video title. So supposedly after he and I talked about, Indian Mongolia and stuff, he got videos and he was telling me about some magic show where people were jumping on glass and not being hurt. But he's also saying that they were praying, and I am confused as all heck. So I'm trying to figure out what that's about.
I didn't really read the chat. I kind of glanced through it. So, but I mean, the link is posted. If he wants to come in and talk, I mean, you don't even have to show your face, man. Just come on in and.
Yeah, there's no judgment. I'm just confused because, like, is it a magic show or is it not? Because it could be a variety of things, especially when it's in India. So I'm not clear on what is happening with that. But it's a fun convo, so we'll see if that goes anywhere.
What in the world? Why wouldn't Google Earth open? Oh, there we go. Okay, I had to click on this other button. I don't have a PhD. Push here, dummy.
Oh, yeah.
Trying to. Let's see, Mongolia. You guys are right. China's at your southern border, right?
Yep.
There's Japan. Yeah, I can't even. This isn't going to help me. Let me try going back to maps. I mean, you guys usually this cold in the beginning of June?
Yep.
Yeah, you guys must be pretty north. I remember when I was living in Montana, didn't get spring until, May. And the summers there were so short, and the winters, the snow stayed on the ground for about 6 months total.
Oh, yeah, it gets pretty cold here.
Well.
Okay, so according to Google, no. Mongolia lies between 41 degrees north and 52 degrees north.
Yeah.
The United States lie roughly between 24 degrees north and 49 degrees north.
Yeah, I'm looking at Google Maps. It looks like you guys, if you took the very center of Mongolia, you'd be basically right on the border of Washington and Oregon. So yeah, southern Montana, South Dakota,
Yeah.
Minnesota, stuff like that, And like the most northern part of Mongolia might be right on the southern border of Canada. Um, yeah, so I guess what's your altitude?
I don't know. Let me look that up. Altitude. You're asking me a bunch of questions that I never think about in my daily life. The altitude is 1,350 meters above sea level.
What is that? About 2,500, 3,000 feet, something like that.
So it's about 4,300 feet above sea level.
Yeah, that's okay. So that's. So I grew up in Colorado. That's just a little bit shy of that. Yeah, I could see. So you do have a much thinner atmosphere, so I could see why it'd be a little bit cooler.
Also, we're a lot drier here
Is there a lot of
than the
desert up
US.
there?
Yeah. And just flat terrain in general. But yeah, the air is very very dry. Have I heard Tuvan throat singing? Yes, actually, several members of my wife's family do various forms of throat singing. From Tuvan, then there's Buryat, and then there's others. That is a thing here. There's varying forms too. Like the women, there's a fair amount of women that can do it too.
Yeah, I've never heard of that. I have no clue what it is. You pull up some examples or something, or
Yeah. So, I mean, this is going to be Siberian, but I'm almost positive you've heard of it. So let me get to the link and let me find a timestamp. Or better yet, can I share my screen?
yeah, go ahead and put it up.
How how do I do that? Oh, share screen. Okay.
Yeah, the middle
All
button.
right. Yeah, share. All right.
Then
So,
then I have to accept it, and there it goes, and then
all
it should.
right. So this is Otikin. Let me figure it
Whoa.
out. This is Otikin. They're in Siberia. So I'll play a little bit. I'll get to the part. Okay. You guys ready?
Yeah,
That's the throat singing.
really, that just sounded like you had a really deep voice. I didn't really.
No, because like you sing from like the throat. It's not like the actual mouth like Westerners sing. It's actually like deep in the throat.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I mean, it sounded like to have a modern day music vibe added to it.
That's more traditional, I think.
Is
I
it?
mean, Otikin's not Mongolian. They're in Siberia, so they have their fundamentally different culture, which you can tell by like the clothing, the hats, the boots, everything.
There's some pretty weird looking outfits they had going on there.
No, it's normal. Western clothing is actually the weird one because it changes on a whim. But like a lot of clothing in most parts of the world, it stays pretty consistent throughout the history. Because I mean that style of clothing predates America.
Hey, welcome, brother. How's it going?
Oh, good.
Yeah, speak about whatever you want to talk about, man. Just keep it clean.
Oh, no problem. You don't have to worry about me with that.
Guess if I read your name. It said scriptures and stones. I might have figured that, but
Well, you can never tell, though. I mean, I came from another podcast that posted in my thing, like in my feed, and his name was like Scripture or something, and he was claiming that he was Jesus, and he was trying to sell his book, and he's swearing at Christians for not buying his book. So, I mean,
That's a good point.
granted, I wasn't helping anything because I'm trying to get him to unalive himself, and I'm making things worse. But still, it's the name doesn't mean anything.
Let's start a whole podcast that's entitled "What Christians Shouldn't Be Like" or "What Christians Shouldn't Say." Just have fun with it and go from there.
It is to some point culturally dependent, because if you read the book of Ezekiel, if you look at one of Paul's chapters, Paul does, for the time, use some choice words, but the context makes it, relevant.
I'm gonna look up this band name quick, because this band name actually sounds familiar. I've got two screens up, so I can jump on Facebook and I can jump on YouTube, because I want to see if they have a Facebook page and I want to see if they have a YouTube.
Just letting you guys know, it's pretty late on the East Coast, so I'll probably only keep this going for like maybe 25 minutes or something like that. 11 o'clock, I'm shutting it down. I'm going to go to sleep if Dan doesn't get here.
No, yeah, it's all good. Oh, I have seen these guys.
Topic that you guys had in mind, or is it just a free-for-all?
Well, we usually, like, this is designer talk, so we usually discuss stuff that shows evidence, that for creation and for a designer. Dan usually has a bunch of stuff put together, and I kind of just jump in and talk about it. I don't have anything prepared, but if there's anything you'd like to share, go right ahead. Right now, we're just, talking about anything until he gets here.
Okay. Well, he's looking up that band name. I'm actually an old Earth creationist, open to some degree of evolution, but not like completely naturalistic evolution. But I was mentioning in the chat the other day the New Creation Studies Journal, the New Creationists, which are a group of young Earth creationists, have kind of a different position, a more what I would consider an intellectually honest position compared to some of your old school creationists. Are you familiar with their new journal that they put out last year?
I am not. Please enlighten me.
I think it's by Todd Wood. Yeah, it's called New Creation Studies. They put out Volume 1, Issue 1 last year. And it's a pretty elaborate journal. The first one was 94 pages.
Would you say Todd Wood? Is that what you said his name was?
Yes. New Creation Studies.
Okay. Yeah, I found it. New Creation blog, New Creation Studies. What things stood out to you?
Well, what's interesting about Todd Wood and some of the other new creationists like Marcus Ross is, rather than just kind of a rhetorical argument like Kent Hovind type style debating, their approach is to just go in and do the grunt work in journals and admit where they have a strong case and admit where they have a weak case compared to secular geology. They don't overstate their case. So they acknowledge like when a secular theory has some strengths in an area, but then they try to make their case as best they can.
Right. Yeah, Dr. Hovind's a personal friend of mine. I worked for him for several years, and we stay in touch and whatnot. I do agree there are some things of his that doesn't make sense, that he's just, trying to explain to really make it look like it's evident. I agree with most of his theories and most of his teachings, but there are still a few where maybe he could kind of look at again to maybe strengthen his position, you know. But that being said, what you brought up about the way these guys work makes me intrigued to actually read what they have and, you know, see if I can maybe be of some use or be of some help or try to at least, you know, think of a couple things that they have on some areas. Um, yeah, I've got one of their things up right now. I'm actually seeing a couple different websites, and I'll
Yeah,
definitely.
I'm hoping they put out a new one this year because I don't see a new second volume for 2026 yet. So I think they only have one journal published as of yet, or at least the only one I see on their website. I haven't really looked that long though.
Right. I've got the New Creation blog. Is that his main website, or is there another one?
I'm not sure. That's a good question. I know they've got more articles on their blog than they do in that journal.
Okay. Oh, he's part of his Genesis history.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah, they've got some pretty good professors there and some very intriguing stuff. I think one of the two lectures that debunk carbon dating comes from his Genesis history. I don't remember the professor's name. It's been a while since I've seen the video. I'd highly recommend that one. Let me see if I can find it. Let's see here. Even though I couldn't really share that video on this channel because of copyright stuff, but Genesis history.
Now, I appreciate this approach a lot more than some of the older ones that just kind of use presuppositional argumentation to try to philosophically undermine, empirical science. Because a lot of debates between scientist and creationist, it gets to philosophical things that the scientists aren't familiar with, and the scientists will bring up technical stuff that the creationists not familiar with, and we just talk past each other. So
Yeah. That's one thing I really love about, science. And I mean, unfortunately, a lot of schools in this country anyway don't really teach you how to think or question, what they're teaching you, but science is there. The scientific method is there to really allow anybody, to come with ideas and discuss it. I'm trying to remember what Richard Feynman said. I think he nailed it on the head best. Got it written down here. Let me pull that up here real quick. Let's see here. Thermodynamics. Okay. Yeah, it was archived in Caltech. He said in the values of science, it is our responsibility as scientists, knowing the great progress and great value of a satisfactory philosophy of ignorance, the great progress that is the fruit of freedom of thought, to proclaim the value of this freedom, to teach how doubt is not to be feared but welcomed and discussed, and to demand this freedom as our duty to all coming generations. I think that doubt that he was talking about is the backbone of all scientific thought. It's the fundamental principle of every scientific debate. It is the duty of everyone who looks up at the stars or looks into any field of science and asks the question of why and how. And unfortunately, we don't have enough independent thinkers on this planet, and I think that's one thing that some of the ways kids are taught about, the evolution theory, or even, from a creationist point of view, the Bible says this, so you can't question it. It kind of puts people in I don't know the exact term, but some sort of psychological position where they're not allowed to question anything, and just like their mind is only focus on that. And we're not taught to broaden our horizons, and start questioning or asking the simple questions. Um, yeah, those are just some of my thoughts, but I'm very intrigued in this article you showed. I definitely want to read this thing.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to make time to. I kind of skimmed through it, but I need to go through it and read it all in detail as well.
Let me answer this question. No, the scientific method is taught in university and science courses. I didn't say that, it wasn't taught. It's just we're really taught, not to question anything like evolution or all that stuff. Or could it possibly be wrong? Like, for example, everybody believes that, we arrived from pond scum, but according to the scientific method, it has never been proven. The scientific method is a very, very, very big part of it. I've actually got a little thing here of the scientific method. Let me see. It's
That if you get deep in the philosophical literature on the philosophy of science, like there's a lot of debate about there actually not being a single scientific method. And that's why I think sometimes the distinction between observable science and historical science that people like Ken Hamlin to make, I think it's a little bit problematic. It's kind of an oversimplification of the state of, because different fields have different methodologies.
Yeah.
I'm trying to pull this specific example up here. I got, several hundred slides to go through. I'm trying to, just easier to learn with the visual reference. Oh, geez, where is it? There it is. Okay.
Dave, I used to think we had the same headphones, but I think they're slightly different.
Maybe. I don't know. I don't even know what brand this is.
Mine's just
this is
cheap
Bengu.
Huh. That's strange. It looks very similar to mine. Mine are just cheap ones from the dollar store.
Oh yeah, these are like $120. They're still cheap. I
Must have the knockoffs then.
This is a knockoff too, so.
At least it's a cyclical method there. That's good. The straight linear one drives me crazy.
Yeah, but one part, like when I was talking about abiogenesis, for example, that part there at the bottom, test with experiment, that's the part they seem to lack. I mean, they stop right at the hypothesis and they move over to analyze data. And without actually getting conclusive results, I mean, they post it as, fact, like that's where life came from, but it has never been proven. And scientists over the last few years have really been going after this thing. And there have been some that have actually been published as factual, but hidden in their report, you can tell that they've gotten the results from already existing organic material. Well, that doesn't work. You need to start from scratch with non-organic material and then bring it back.
Well, I mean, the problem with the scientific method, like when it comes to things like whether it's abiogenesis or even like religious questions, is you can't test it with an experiment. It's not physically possible.
Well, in their theory, I mean, yeah, I agree. The second law of thermodynamics won't allow it to happen, but they're trying to prove it, and
yeah, and I mean, it's just in general, because when you talk about things from like however many thousands of years ago or billions of years ago, you can't exactly replicate that. Even if you, just because, I mean, even if you take, like Steven said, like or Achilles said, the 13,000 year model, the Earth is fundamentally different 13,000 years ago than it is today. So you still have a fundamentally different starting point.
yeah. But I guess what I was saying, I mean, their theories are they think they know how the atmosphere was like back then, and in a lab you should be able to replicate those that hypothesis and then make it happen. And according to abiogenesis theory, it wouldn't take millions of years. It would need to happen quickly, because when you bring that first life form into existence, it would need to find something to eat, and it would need to, stay alive for any period of time, or else it'd just fall apart and die if it didn't have a way to sustain itself or keep itself replicating. Then it wouldn't exist. So it would need to be um, a quick period. It wouldn't need to sit there for millions of years and stay alive before some sort of sustenance existed for it to eat. I think that's one of the big things that's overlooked in the evolution theory, is that there would need to be things perfectly set up in order for life to exist. You know, um, I,
Could have though, like what you have at hydrothermal vents today. I think that's one of the hypotheses, is that it
Yeah.
wasn't even a sun driven um, energy flow. It was from the hydrothermal vents, which we find, I think, archaea and some bacteria like organisms living off the chemicals down there. So now, obviously, I think God had a hand in it, but you got to give the theory fair treatment. So there's that scenario, and then another one of the really old fossils we have are these blue green algae, stromatolites, which do photosynthesize. But there is the point that you get a lot of life forms in the Cambrian, and how did things evolve that quickly to that point, or is it just we have a gap in time there? So I think there's good evidence for God's handiwork in all this, but just getting the first life form is a big deal. That is a big mystery, admittedly. But once you have some of those early ones, the ecosystem problem of sustaining them, it seems like we've got sources that could feed them already.
well, I mean, yeah, it would have to be in place. All those chemicals and whatnot, and all the different. Um, Sorry, my brain's not working. Supplements and whatnot, in order for the life to be there. I mean, it can't survive without it already in place. But I guess that shows the point that, look, you we know what, or supposedly know what the supplements are, right? And if you put supplements within your mason jar or whatever in your laboratory with that environment, okay, now bring in your non-organic molecules and add your energy and bring that first life form into place. Well, if it exists, it should be able to sustain itself, and it should be able to then self-replicate. That's the part that they've never put together.
Well, I think they have got organic molecules in space, haven't they? Like you've got methane on one of the moons of, I can't remember if it's Jupiter or Saturn. It's Titan.
Well, there's
methane
there's
as an organic molecule.
Methane, is it methane organic? I believe so. It's been forever since I've had chem.
Yeah, I was gonna say I'm rusty on chemistry. Yeah, I don't know.
And I know certain asteroids have organics. I can't remember if they found amino acids in meteorites or not.
Well, so they did. I think it was the asteroid Bennu. Like, we just got samples a couple years ago where they went out and struck this thing, collected some samples, and brought it back. They found water, ice, several minerals on Earth, and they found some amino acids. First thing that came to my mind is,
You're thinking hydroplating.
yeah, that maybe those asteroids. I mean, according to Walt Brown's theory, those asteroids could have come from Earth. There is a way in orbital mechanics to follow that path of that asteroid back in time. I wish I knew the math to do it, but I know you can track everything backwards to its origin point. I wish I knew a way to get a model of that to prove that, but I think that's one way to prove that. I mean, because that's a lot of ice and water needed from other celestial bodies to say, all the water and all the life came from comets and asteroids and stuff. I mean, I guess if you throw in billions of years, and of course there's enough time to have all those collisions, but I still don't buy it.
I think a major problem with the asteroid model and hydroplate those, you've got impact craters that are in layers of rock that are Precambrian and some of the really, really early Paleozoic stuff. So you would, it just doesn't seem, they're really, really big ones. So they would have had a major, major impact when they hit. And they're in some of the rocks that should have been buried in a flood, like Walt Brown's, and then maybe uncovered later. So you think that, if there were all that sediment on top of the earth that then later washed, and what is it called, the Great Denudation or something like that, you would have thought that the top layers would have taken the brunt of the impact, and then you would have to hypothesize these impacts would be even bigger.
Well, not necessarily, because it says like the fountains of most of the water from the flood didn't come from the rain. It came from when the fountains of the deep broke open. And that being said, you could have initially had, some pieces of rock flung off at the very beginning of the flood, and keep in mind the waters stayed up there for, I think it was like 7 months. I don't remember exactly. I know Noah stayed in the ark for over a year, maybe a year and a half or something like that, but the flood waters didn't last that long. But I guess meaning depending on the location and how close the rocks were to the jet stream, like you get some that maybe shot out at escape velocity, you'd have others that didn't get as much friction from it and didn't get as much energy, and they'd be shot out at different velocities, and some would almost immediately come back a few minutes, 30 minutes later, or an hour, depending on their upward velocity. But yeah, not all of them would come back afterwards. I mean, probably most of them would come back immediately after they were shot up.
It's interesting that there's so much, I don't know, and this is a me thing, but it's interesting there's so much hype on like knowing the unknowable, and I think that's just because humans are curious, but I don't think we're ever going to fully truly know how the universe got started, just because it is so vast. Like, our brains literally cannot even comprehend the size of our own solar system.
Yeah, I know, right?
Or the mileage from like Earth to Pluto. Our brains just can't compute that high. So there's going to be a ton of theories, and obviously people of faith are going to stick with what makes sense to them. But
yeah, everybody has, every scientist has a point of origin or a worldview, and that's usually one thing that strikes it. Mine, of course, my ministry and my studies went in because I did believe in God. And I think it was kind of obvious, in my testimony, how God wanted me to, do what I do. And in my, I don't want to say seminar, I don't know if it's there yet, but I've got a teaching on the origin of the universe and stuff like that. But I think physics shows that God is necessary, and it can't put itself into motion. It can't put itself into being,
Well, what put God into being then, and how come he's exempt if you want to say that he is?
This goes back.
That's very convenient, isn't it?
Well, that goes before we get to Claude's question. There's the question of what is God, right? We have to answer that question first, because Claude mentioned God is a he. How do we know God is male? Right? Like, we have to first get clear on a definition of God, which is going to vary from, culture and etc.
Where I get my answers from is, if I were to say to somebody and try to say, okay, this is God, here's why I know why. I look at the archaeological evidence that is shown of biblical stories, and that's how I present, what I think is God from the Bible. That's where I go. A Buddhist would say differently. A Hindu would say differently.
Sure, but I mean, even we all have to be intellectually honest and admit that this is still human interpretation. at the end of the day. And since humans can't fully comprehend, what I mentioned earlier, we can't actually know. We can have leanings and we can have biases and we can have faith, we can have beliefs, but we don't actually know. We can't prove. And that goes back to my original point. I don't think humans are ever going to be able to prove how the universe started, because the universe is so vast and our brains are so exponentially smaller.
I mean, it does make sense what you're saying. I wouldn't optimistically say that, or I say pessimistically say that. I think it's a possibility. I mean, there's so much out there. The mind is such an amazing thing.
Sure, but it's still limited. It's still limited.
Yeah.
And
it deteriorates.
Yeah.
Everybody has their different strengths and weaknesses. And, we can't understand many of the things. I mean, none of us here can go out and split the atom. None of us here could have discovered the double helix from DNA. None of us here could have mapped the human genome. But there are some extremely intelligent and gifted people who have. And I take notice of them. And I don't see anything wrong with that.
Pretty good case for faith, actually.
No, it isn't, because faith is belief without evidence, which is one of the most least virtuous things I could ever imagine.
Well, I would reject that definition. I have more of the trusting definition in faith.
Let's have a look at the definition just to make sure, because this is the problem here, that creationists change the meaning of words to suit. For example, a certain person.
So does the secular world. The secular world does that all the time.
No, I take mine from the dictionary, because that's the only place you can start.
The dictionary, they change definitions to fit their worldview all the time. I'll give you an example. Back in 2015, the definition of the word luck pointed to divine intervention, and they realized that and then changed the definition there, shortly after.
Really? Let's have a look.
Look up the definition of the word luck before 2015, and you will see that it is different.
God, it's amazing what you spend your time doing.
Which definition of luck is it has multiple contexts?
There was one definition that pointed to divine intervention.
Wow.
I don't remember exactly, but I'm kind of paraphrasing. It said a source that determines good or bad things that happen to somebody. Well, what's that source?
I'm not going to bother arguing against that.
Well, that's not before. So I'm Googling it now. Before 2015, the definition of luck universally centered on unpredictable events that happen by chance and affect someone's life, regardless of their own effort or ability. Historically, it was understood across several core dimensions. There's citations for Merriam-Webster, Oxford Dictionary. There's philosophical view. I'm not seeing anything where it had a higher power. You may be thinking of fortune, but fortune is different than luck.
No, I want to. Again, it's been a while since I've seen it. Hold on.
See, I'm looking at Michael Heiser's Naked Bible Podcast blog, and there's an article by Dr. Ron Johnson. I'm skimming through it really quickly, but the gist of it is the idea of biblical faith was trust in Yahweh, like a loyalty, fidelity type trust. Not as much just blind faith. That's more of kind of our English slant on it.
Yeah, and that was going to be my next point, is because luck is an English word, but it's not obviously the same, say, here in Mongolia, and there are different words for different contexts. So, or even in like Sanskrit or whatever, right? So luck is like Scriptures in Stone was saying with the other point, was that it's the English slant on a specific concept.
Sorry, I've got a message I got to reply to.
No, that's fine. I'm just Googling this and I'm poking around in Merriam-Webster. Yeah, I'm not finding anything where it's like a higher power. Like there's references.
Has Dan been in touch? Is he coming on?
I haven't heard back from him yet. I've sent a few messages to the numbers that I have.
Because I read the
I've only got
blurb,
on.
it looked really good because it was going to be hosted by a seasoned leader with decades of wisdom, a passion for truth, a sharp analytical mind. And I just thought, whoa, this is going to be a great show. And now he's not here. Mind you, I like you guys.
I just told him, I was like, Claude is here. Come on in.
Yeah, good.
Claude,
how else were we going to get you to hang out with us?
Claude, are you familiar with Peter Singer?
I don't think so, no. Is he a singer?
Oh. No, he's a like
sewing
an agnostic
machine
philosopher.
All right. Okay. Well,
I think you would probably appreciate some of his work, but
I will. Thank you for the tip. Yeah, I'll have a look.
Yeah, I try to argue against him all the time. So.
Oh no.
That's.
I'll have
He's
to.
Very engaging, though. See, I like reading people that I disagree with. I mean,
yeah,
that's how
I
you get
agree.
better.
We can have a fun discussion.
That's a fun discussion.
You have to check him out. Maybe we can talk about it sometime.
Yeah. I was thinking of Pete Seeger, but he was the folk singer, wasn't he? Yeah.
Are you familiar with William Rowe?
No. William Lane Craig, I've heard of. William Lane Craig, but not William Rowe.
Craig's interesting. William Rowe's the person that, the deer burning in the forest. He's the guy that wrote that paper.
Okay.
The helpless fawn, that argument from natural evil.
Are you a philosophy major by chance?
Philosophy minor, and then my master's is in apologetics.
Oh, okay, that explains a lot.
My bachelor's is in earth science.
There's no need to apologize for it.
What kind of career can you actually get with that other than apologetics?
I could probably be an ethics adjunct, but adjunct pay is absolute trash right now, or at least in my area. So
I'm not judging. I'm not judging. I'm legitimately curious because I'm sure you've heard this too, but like people bash on like useless degrees and philosophy majors and things like that. So that's why I'm wondering, as an accounting finance double major, I don't know of what career you could have.
I use my bachelor's. I teach science.
Oh, okay.
Well, that's good.
Yeah, that's something.
And I've taught at private schools, private Christian schools, and I've also taught at public schools. And I know I'm doing my job when people think I'm an atheist, and it's like you have to keep your personal opinions to yourself. So, but it's funny. I get if people only knew.
You could go and work at Dinosaur Adventureland and set up a school there.
Oh, I'd probably be thrown out. I live in the area near I live across the river from Ken Ham's Ark Encounter. And
I was just going to say, you could be a tour guide for the Ark Encounter.
They would probably throw me out when they find out I'm Old Earth, but I would
well,
love
no,
to see
he's an Old Earth too. Ken Ham is an Old Earth also. Ken Ham is an Old Earth creation. That's also, at least that's what a lot of his physicists say.
He's pretty much just a presuppositionalist, and unless he's hiding his beliefs.
I mean, maybe I could be missing something, but last thing I heard, he was endorsing Hugh Ross on some of his teaching.
Oh no, he hates Hugh Ross's stuff. Like, I mean, he's friends with him in the sense of like he thinks he's cordial, but he's on a tirade against William Lane Craig right now. Funny you bring him up there. He just put out some diss video against William Lane Craig.
Can I ask you, as an Old Earth creationist, what do you think of people like Francis Collins? He's the Christian guy. He mapped the human genome, and he's absolutely accepts evolution 100%.
Isn't he with BioLogos or affiliated with them?
Yes, he is. But he's sort of like, he is a guy with like pretty strong scientific credentials, especially in discovery, especially the mapping the genome and stuff like that. So he's definitely accepts evolution.
I'm familiar with him, but I'll be honest, I really haven't read a whole lot of his stuff.
Maybe you might find it interesting. He's got a thing on YouTube called Why Evolution and Christianity Are Both True, which, of course, the hardliners would say, no, that's rubbish. It's the earth is 6,000 years old and he's a reprobate and all that sort of thing.
I better clarify, my joke earlier about knowing I do my job when they think I'm an atheist. That's not really, I try to stay neutral and all that, but it's just.
Well, yeah, we know what you mean, but you better be careful as an old Earth creationist, because that could lead to dancing, and that's a sin. So you be careful.
It's amazing how much of American society, especially within churches that aren't even aware of it, was influenced by the Puritans. I mean, they had pluses, but they also had their minuses.
Yeah, and I mean, that's part of American history. I mean, I'm Hindu, so I have a fundamentally, I don't know, I would probably align better with old Earth creationists, although, I mean, I still accept evolution, and based on what I've seen, I believe that the universe is billions of years old. And when it comes to like the creation aspect, it's less of what Christians would believe, where God like specifically made Earth for human life, for the Bible story, and more of the universe and the multiverse specifically, because I do believe in that. I believe in cycles. It's just an ongoing process of creation and destruction, and we just happen to be in it. So it's more of a, I guess you could say, more of a deistic approach.
One of the thoughts, there's no way to prove this, but one of the thoughts I've wondered sometimes, you guys are familiar with the Mandela effect, right?
Yeah.
This is just completely off the wall out there. I'm not saying that you could formulate this into a good explanation or anything, but there is that small possibility that, after the fall, we went into a Mandela effect universe with all that. It's crazy, but
but
very small.
He didn't reoffend. He didn't reoffend Nelson after his release. Yeah, Nelson Mandela effect, is it?
It's the Berenstain Bears one that gets me. That one and the Fruit of the Loom one.
Oh wow.
What's the Mandela effect?
It's the idea that there are things today that we remember, like earlier in our life, being one way, and like you look up the history on it, and it wasn't. The Berenstain Bears, the spelling of it, that's a really common one. Some people remember Nelson Mandela.
Space Jam 2. Yeah. Or no, it was, what was it? Alakazam or something? Kazam? Shazam. Yeah, Shazam. There we go.
That might be it. But some people have memories of Mandela dying in prison when he didn't. And they
I think I know the effect you're talking about. Yeah, basically like something happens to you, and then, moments later, you remember something completely different, and even though the eyewitnesses who were there, or even the video footage shows, no, you walked down those stairs backwards, not forwards or whatever, but you remember it differently.
That's partially true, but the Mandela effect even affects eyewitnesses, and this was like, there was a study done where people who were at the trade towers at 9/11, right, they were interviewed 10, 20 years later. But what ended up happening was they were eyewitnesses, and it was proven that they were there, but they completely misremembered their own experience. So they experienced one thing, but that didn't actually happen, even though the eyewitnesses were there. That's the Mandela effect.
Yeah, it's a fascinating rabbit hole to go down.
Yeah, that gets into the realm of quantum mechanics, alternative timelines, and that's my hobby. And it went dead.
Okay. Let me here's one for you. Somebody asked me this question, but I think it's perfect for for you. How do you see the old Earth view when the plants were made on a different day from when the sun and the moon were? Does that
Okay,
make sense?
there are several ways you can approach this. You can approach it as a concordist or a non-concordist. A concordist would try to make the chronology line up with the actual event. So somebody that would take a concordist position would be like the Hugh Ross's position. Hugh Ross would say you have plants, but you have a hazy sky, which early Earth had a hazy sky. And then eventually, as the sky cleared and the sun was visible and the moon were visible from like the frame of reference on Earth. The problem is that kind of seems like we're reading into the text when we're doing that. We're taking a modern scientific view and reading it into the text that way. A non-concordist like Michael Heiser or John Walton would say that in Genesis 1, we're not even really dealing with how God made things. We're dealing with the why and by who, and that it's written as a literary polemic against the other ancient Near East cultures, which that argument actually is stronger than you think. When we first hear it, we think, oh, well, the Bible's lying to us. No, if you read the cultures around there, you can see how all the deities that the Babylonians, the Egyptians, the Canaanites, that it's kind of trolling their creation stories and saying, no, that's not how it happened. Our God did it. It's picking a fight with them intentionally. So that one is becoming more appealing to me, but I'm open to a weak concordism, but parsing that out exactly. Another option that I've thought, and I'm not saying I have a definitive answer, would be that the ancestors to plants like blue-green algae or those things that lived in a hydrothermal vents were there, prior to, but I kind of lean more to the non-concordist the older I get. Hopefully I did that justice. It's a good question, though. It is an interesting point to bring up.
Okay. Forgive me for not listening to everything you were saying. I was replying to another message. But here's one someone asked a little while ago. Does Miller and Urey experiment in the 50s demonstrate abiogenesis? They found a few amino acids, I believe, but I'm not a biologist, but the way I understand it, to make one protein, you need 30 or 40 specific different amino acids. So I don't think it demonstrated it. I don't think it proved it. I think it proved that you can make a couple amino acids, but as for actually making life, they failed at it. They weren't able to do it.
It didn't succeed in making life. No. You're right.
What time is it? Let's give it another 15 minutes and I'll probably shut it down.
Seems legit.
I don't think Dan's coming on. If he does, he might start one up a little later.
It's a regular occurrence. This happens every time. True. It's unbelievable.
But still, you show up for him. That you got to be his number one fan.
He had agreed to discuss a particular topic with me. And
what was the topic, Claude?
Well, the other day on their show, there was a bit of an argument. Big Bad Mama got booted. And then they were talking about atheism and blah, 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 blah. And Achilles said 90% of people don't believe in evolution. And Steve had said, yes, the intelligent half. So it was, which was, I found absolutely hilarious as a bit of a mathematician. And we were going to talk more about that because, and various other topics as well. So,
so you're a mathematician?
Yes, I was.
What do you think?
Not
of
really.
theory?
I'm an investigator. I'm retired, but I ended up doing financial investigations. So,
my field.
Yeah, well, I haven't. People hired me to go into, initially small businesses where money was sort of going missing, I suppose. And then I
know what that is.
Yeah. So
I know what that is.
Now I I've forgotten a lot of the basics, but I have for the complicated stuff. But sometimes I get a contract, sometimes I don't. I'm based in Singapore now. I've been all over the place.
Nice.
I
Yeah,
enjoy living. Yeah.
Oh, I was gonna say my best friend in Minnesota. She does the exact same thing you did in America. It's called a forensic accountant.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, so she's like a licensed CPA and she's a licensed forensic accountant. So I thought about doing that, but I ended up meeting my wife, and now I'm a full-time content creator. Woohoo!
Right. Well, it's very interesting, but you deal with so many, to be honest, so many people who lie. They lie through their teeth. They can't see that they've already been caught. I suppose it's like anything.
I wanted to
Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, like, the show earlier with Achilles and Steven, I'm kind of bummed it wasn't an open panel because it was about like Christianity being complacent and persecution. And I wanted to jump in so much because they were saying Christians are the only ones that get persecuted in like China and whatever, and Muslims and Buddhists aren't persecuted. I'm like, have you been to China, sir? Have you, I'll take you to India. I have family members that persecute Muslims and Buddhists. Like, really?
And, to be fair, all religions have done their share of persecution of other religions.
Oh yeah. I mean, how do you think Buddhism got all the way to like Singapore and Thailand? We as Hindus set their stupas on fire and pushed them out of North India.
Yeah, so
like that's how that happened.
So Claude, since you mentioned William Lane Craig, have you ever watched his debate with Eric Weilenberg?
I don't think so. I think I've only watched stuff with him, and would it be Christopher Hitchens?
Eric Weilenberg brought up the issue of psychopaths as one of the reasons why he doesn't think you need God to have objective morality. William Lane Craig was arguing for that you need God for objective morality, or that at least God is the best explanation for objective morality. Eric Weilenberg has an interesting take, but he made a whole argument about people with no remorse, the psychopaths that was one of the evidences he cited. You would probably appreciate that debate.
Yeah, it's Wielen. Yeah, I've just found him. Yeah.
I can't remember how to spell his name.
It's very difficult.
Yeah.
It's like Anthony Reed. No, that's spelled a different way. Yeah. Weilenberg.
It does bring up an interesting argument that doesn't get brought up too much in a lot of these discussions, at least at the layman level, maybe, well, I guess it does a little bit, but not in its formal best way of laying it out, the moral argument. I think the best form of it that I've come across is David Baggett's abductive moral argument, where he doesn't say that like having objective morality proves God's existence, but he would say God is the best explanation for what he calls moral facts.
He is also the best explanation for why the universe is in motion also.
Yeah, that'd be the teleological argument. Well, cosmological or teleological, depending on how you lay it out.
Well, an action cannot act upon itself. Something had to put it moving, right? An object at rest will remain at rest unless something acts upon it. Well, the entire universe is in motion, from the largest galaxy down to the smallest molecule. Even, a rock, which seems, stationary to us down to molecular level, it's still moving. Follow that all the way back. Ask yourself the question, what put it into motion? I think also that shows evidence that the universe can't possibly be infinite. Again, motion had to have a starting point.
That's kind of the Aquinas Aristotelian take. The one issue that a person could bring up is that on the quantum level, you see particles popping in and out of existence, especially the virtual particles and things like that. So, but to get it at the macro scale is a big deal.
Yes, but that's happening in an already existing universe. It doesn't show that the universe can create itself spontaneously for nothing.
So if
I
if
mean,
the universe
the
isn't
question.
infinite, what is on the other side, where it stops? What happens after that?
Say
So
that
the
again.
problems we can't observe beyond where light comes to us.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
there is that
So
one thing.
Yeah.
There's like a gravitational thing that seems to be pulling stuff outside the visible universe. We know some stuff skewed to one way. And I know James Webb's telescope's doing all sorts of stuff now, and I'm not caught up with all of it. But yeah, we can only see what light has come to us. We can't really see beyond it.
Yeah, and the question is, in that regard, what is causing the gravitational pull that's skewing things slightly in one direction?
Mm-hmm.
There must be God's sense of humor.
I know, right?
Hmm.
Well,
What,
and the question I have too, because like when I was going to bring up the point scriptures did, but my point would be, okay, they pop in and out of existence. So when they're in existence, they're here, but then they pop out of existence. Well, where do they go? Are they in another dimension? Are they in subspace? Which is, and technically in of itself, its own universe, right? And if they're in subspace, well, where did that universe come from? You don't need subspace to have this dimension. So there's a lot of unanswered questions that I don't think we're going to answer.
Michio Kaku is leaning on one of Stephen Hawking's theories that, everything is kind of coming from an external dimension. The creationists would argue, that, God stands outside of space, time, and matter, and energy for that fact. And I guess you could classify that as an external dimension type of thing. So in some ways, they are kind of thinking in the same direction, maybe. I don't know, because gravity cannot create anything because gravity requires matter to be in existence for gravity to exist. So that's why I think Hawking and I forget the other physicist's name he's working with on the project. They were talking about how it had to come out from an external source other than the universe as we know it.
Yeah, and that's where we get into the multiverse or simulation theory.
Yeah, again, I mean, something had to put the universe here. It cannot create itself.
Well, I mean, alternatively, I mean, if it's infinite, then it would just be going on forever.
How did it get into motion if it is infinite?
Well, back to Claude's question, how did God get here?
Okay, so
I mean,
I still think Dr. Hovind has the best explanation on that. I mean, I can pull up the screen
He's
of
not
the video.
doctor. No, he's not doctor, and it does. But you put his explanation up because it's rubbish. Yeah.
Well, whatever, call him Bubba, but he's still right.
No, well, what you say about the God, you could say about the universe. It's outside of time, space, and matter. It always was. It didn't need a creator because it was, it created itself. If you say that about God, you can say that about the universe. It's very. But
well,
all these
no,
people listen to it.
let me bring.
Yeah.
So let me bring.
Yeah, bring the clip up. If it's the clip I'm thinking of, even I'm not the biggest fan of Hovind, but even William Lane Craig said that Hovind had a good explanation in that one. So I want to see if it's the same clip I'm thinking of.
I think it is. It's like when they were asked, where did God come from during that, Embry-Riddle University question?
Yeah.
Now, there is an interesting way, while you're bringing that clip up, to interpret the Hebrew in Genesis 1. Michael Heiser brings it up, but also it was in one of Alex O'Connor's recent videos. You can also translate it when God began to create. So you wouldn't actually have to have creation ex nihilo implied in Genesis 1 in the original Hebrew. There's an alternative way of translating it, which actually seems to align with Hebrew syntax better, according to Heiser.
Now, hold on. I've got it pulled up here. I'm going to share it here. Let's see here. The explanation I was going to say is what he says about the man running in and around the computer. If you look at that analogy, it makes perfect sense. Let's see here. Open screen. Window. Share.
Yeah, that's the video I was thinking of.
Let's watch it. Can you guys see it? It's coming up blank on my.
Yeah, it's black. I don't hear
It's
anything.
black on mine.
Well, I mean,
it's the most sense he's made. It's the most sense Haven has made for years.
At some. Oh, hang on.
Here we go.
It's muted. Can anyone hear? I can't hear.
No, I can't hear either.
All right, you guys can't hear it. Is that what you were saying?
Yeah.
I've got really bad internet, so it might not show it. Maybe I can, instead of, it's nothing you really need to watch. Maybe I can lower the resolution and we can get it back there. If one of you guys with better internet than I have, you can pull that up. I just look up Where Did God Come From, Kent Hovind on YouTube and play it. It's a 3.5-minute video.
I'm just looking it up on AI and see if he goes, yeah.
Anyway, I guess I'll just put it this way. So the analogy that he was using was basically, if you look at the computer, the engineer who designed the computer isn't running around inside the computer changing the numbers on the screen, right? The engineer was outside of it. He thought about it, put it all together, and then put it into being and made it exist. The same analogy works with God creating the universe, right? So as far as we know, I'm going to mute you here, Claude, because you won't let me finish this explanation. So from our point of view, God has always been, because we've only known the universe from when we were born and from his existence. So anybody to create it and, put it into place, being outside of it from that universe's point of view would have always existed.
The problem with that analogy is like, all right, the guy makes a computer. Who made the guy? The engineer still has to come from somewhere, right?
Well, yes, but the point of view from the computer's point of view, like the computer existed, and all he knows is the universe from when he existed. He doesn't. From his point of view, the engineer has always existed. That's our best explanation. We see God as he's always been. You
could say that about the universe, though, too. So.
Well, yeah, but you can look at I don't know. I just have that one point in motion that, if since everything is in motion, something had to put it into motion, and therefore it cannot be infinite. Because motion had to have an origin point. But I don't know. Got another minute or two. I'm gonna close it down, not because I'm chickening out. It's because I'm getting tired and I got to work tomorrow.
No, I'm getting tired too. And I mean, I get that analogy, but it still doesn't answer the question, right? Because it's from the point of the view of the computer, which is fine. The computer thinks what it experiences always existed. That still doesn't explain where the engineer came from, who built it in the first place. It's just a cop-out.
I like actually having intellectual conversations on the internet. People actually make you think. I want to ponder on that one for a while, Dave, and get back to you another time with another answer for it.
This is my personal opinion. Oh my God, echo. This is my personal opinion. What set this universe into motion, and this is just me being a Hindu from a specific sect, Big Bang Theory. But there's a hypothesis around the Big Bang Theory. You guys may have heard of this, right? Where the Big Bang, exploded, throws everything out that exists, right? Well, people ask, well, where did that come from? Well, it could have been the implosion of the previous universe, because all things come in cycles, and we see this even with supernovas. They explode, there's gravitational pull, and then they end up forming asteroids and moons and other things, and then they all just do whatever they do or float off somewhere.
I wish we had more time, because I think there's enough evidence out there that shows that if the universe is in a singularity, the gravity well would be too strong that wouldn't be able to expand from itself.
But that's not how it started, because it's basically this, because we exist, there isn't that gravity well yet. But for whatever reason, and again,
I
this
have
is just
a 30-minute lecture that goes into all of that stuff and breaks down the gravity of it too.
Okay.
I don't want to go into it now, but I mean, another time I would love to. It's 11:30. I got to work tomorrow. Thanks, guys, for hanging out. Yeah, y'all have a wonderful night. I'm going to play this little thing here and then shut it down in about 15 seconds. I don't know where Dan is. I wish was here. Oh, that's not a Proverbs Guys exit. Whatever.